Hey, hey, gang. Hey, I almost ain't make it to the. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look.
I almost ain't make it, but I'm in this.
Oh, hey, I woke up. TMZ said, I said, oh, blood. No.
Chin up, chest out. What's
I
happening?
get blood immediately.
Ah.
Blood said, hey, you almost kill me.
Try to get my nigga. Gotta be quicker than that.
Come on.
Hey.
That gang life, man, out there on the West Coast, man, is just crazy, man. This resulted in a lot of deaths of black people, man. You know, I mean, you go from the 70s all the way up until now, how many black men are in graveyards because of this gang life, man? You know, just wiping each other out. So today we're talking about YG. We're talking about YG and Drakeo the Ruler. Now, YG, you know, he claimed blood sets. But Drakeo, he claimed that he wasn't from no gang. He wasn't gang affiliated, but we know that that's not a lie. He just basically said that he didn't, you know, he basically said that he just did music, right? But, you know, he would constantly make raps, you know, coming at, you know, saying things about gang members and stuff like that. And then, you know, on that dreadful day that he lost his life, you know, those gang members went out there to where he was supposed to perform, that he ended up getting unalive. Now you have one of his former bodyguards coming out and he's speaking out about what actually happened that day. So let's read this. Let's get off into what's being said about. Hold on for a second. Let's get off into what's being said about what happened on that day that he lost his life. Right. Drakeo security guard says YG brandished knife during fatal backstage brawl. During a court deposition, former security guard from LA, rapper Drakeo the Ruler, says he saw a masked YG and two others in his entourage brandish short blades moments before Drakeo was stabbed at Once Upon a Time in LA Festival 2021. YG has reportedly denied involvement in Drakeo's death, saying he learned about the unaliving after arriving at the festivals. Law enforcement searched a Burbank property this week and briefly detained YG as they continue to investigate the murder, right? Let's make this a little bigger, right? A former security guard for Drakeo the Ruler testified under oath he saw rapper YG and produce a knife and slashed it towards him during 2021 backstage fight in which Drakeo was fatally stabbed, according to a recent obtained deposition experts, right? Aldrich Cooper III, who was part of Drakeo's security detail at Once Upon a Time in LA festival, said YG was front and center during the 2018-21 brawl and was one of three men he saw carrying what appeared to be short improvised knives. He said YG, whose real name is Keenan Jackson, was wearing a ski mask, but he recognized the rapper's hazel eyes as he tried to protect Drakeo, whose legal name was Darrell Caldwell Jr. Representatives for YG did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The excerpts come from Cooper's March 9, 2025 depositions, which surfaced last month in a court filing by attorneys representing Drakeo's family in a civil lawsuit against festival organizers and security contractors. It adds more context to the fight after law enforcement investigating the unaliving searched a Burbank property and detained YG in the process on Tuesday. The California Highway Patrol, with the help of Burbank Police Department SWAT team, briefly detained YG while officers searched the property. He was released after the search was not arrested. YG has reportedly denied involvement in Drakeo's unaliving on his June 26 song, We Know the Truth. He rejected allegations connected him to the unaliving and said he learned after arriving, right? A CHIP spokesman said the agency cannot comment in this ongoing and open investigation. When asked if YG was a suspect or a person of interest in the case, no one has been arrested in the ongoing unaliving case, right? NBC Los Angeles reported that the warrant was served as part of continual homicide investigation. Chip told NBC that YG was present when officers arrived and was released when the search was completed. Drakeo's son and other relatives, along with Cooper, sued Live Nation. C3 presents Bobby D presents, and several security contractors in February 2022 alleging the companies involving in staging and securing the festival failed to protect Drakeo from foreseeable attack. YG is not a defendant in the lawsuit, right? So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that's being said, right? There's a lot of things that's being said here. But the guy, the security guard, he did an actual interview where he sat down and was talking to people about this incident, man, and he said this.
He would then say that he knows YG did an interview on No Jumper that was publicly released. He told them it was released in the summer of 2021 and that a lot happened in that 3 to 4 month period. They then asked him who was the interview with, and he would respond and say YG and his 2 artists. They would then ask him what was said about Drakeo or Drakeo's camp, and he would respond and say that YG said we don't do that internet stuff and that the homie's gonna get you. They would then ask him that based on his knowledge and understanding, what gangs were YG and his crew affiliated with. And he would say the Inglewood families, and I think they're called the Treetop Pyrus. That's what YG claims. They would then ask him, are the Inglewood families a blood or a Crip subset? And he would say bloods. They would then ask him what are the Treetop Pyrus, and he would say they call themselves Pyrus, but they're still bloods. They would then ask him how many passes were given to Drakeo, and he would say 10. They would then ask him about the 10 passes, and he would say 4 videographers, 2 DJs, Drakeo, Ralphie, him, and the last person was a video editor that was a female. They would then ask him, did any promoters or security companies reach out to Drakeo in the weeks leading up to the festival? And he would respond and say, as far as I know, I was supposed to meet up with a guy named Wack 100, who was supposed to coordinate me with Snoop Dogg. But other than that, I never spoke with anyone about anything other than Drakeo. He's the one that told me I was supposed to meet up with Wack. They would then show him a document and ask him, before today, have you ever seen this? And he would respond, yes, in September of 2023. They would then ask him why did he see it on that occasion, and he would say, yeah, the detective on the case spoke with me about this. They would then ask him, where did you guys first make contact with security? And he would say on Exposition and Bill Robinson Lane. He then said as he approached the security guard, he would roll down the passenger side window, and the first thing the security said to him was, what's up, blood? Drakeo security then said that he gave the security guard that said blood a funny look. Then he looked to his right, and he heard Drakeo say, what the F? He would then ask him where do they go next, and he would point to the next checkpoint. They would then ask him to explain for the record what "what's up blood" meant. And he would say that he felt like it was some sort of intimidation factor because everybody knew the car that Drakeo drove, and he was in all Drakeo's videos. And don't forget they drove there in Drakeo's Rolls Royce Dawn. But he would say before they reached the checkpoint, there were a bunch of cars in front of them. And he would say in hindsight, he knew the guys that were directly in front of them. And he would say that he found out that was YG's camp. And he would say that this is all speculation, but he felt like it was an intimidation factor by them saying, what's up, blood? Like you're walking into blood territory.
Now, Wack 100, he's always mixed up in something, man. And they saying that they was calling Wack. But as you can see here, you can see me here in pictures with YG. He came, you know, he was brought to Philly back in 2000, what was that, 23, right? I was, you know, I don't like to talk about my real life online. You know, I come here, you know, I'm married, I got my children, but I have some friends out of Culver City, some Mexican homies, right, that I'm real cool with, right? You know, when I would go back and forth to LA, I mean, you know, on my other side of my family, I have some Mexican homies, and I have some swine homies, some homies that are swine bloods. So we have our foundation, Urban Nerves, and then my other homie has the Fathership Foundation, and you know, we give giveaways every year going back to school. So we got YG to come through, right? YG come through, kick it. Some of my swine homies, some of my Mexican homies, right? They came, donated, and YG and his homies and his crew, they came and kicked it, you know, for a while. Like I said, I was none of that, right? But it's sad that his name is mixed up in this because he's a good dude, right? Off the cameras and just, you know, but in that street life, a lot of us come from that street life, man. This is the stuff that come with it. Now, they're saying that had Wack 100 would have been there, Drakeo would still be alive. I'm not a part of LA gang politics. I had homies out there, right? I had homies out there, and, you know, we was able to bring him here, right? You know, and the kids got a chance to meet him, and they got a chance to take part in what we was doing here, the give backs, you know, in the streets, right, for the kids going back to school. But the guy that's telling the story, he wasn't done.
They would then ask him, when you guys entered the grounds of Exposition Park, at that point, what happened next? And he would say that he saw a group in front of them. They were going through the checkpoint, but they're just talking. And he would say that in comparison to the security at Rolling Loud, he would notice that at this concert, there was no dogs going around the car and nobody got out the vehicle to be searched. And he would say that he was watching the group in front of them, and he would notice that nobody was taking out the vehicle to be searched. He would tell him it was about 2 to 3 vehicles in that group, and they went past the checkpoint. But when they pulled up next to be searched, they would ask him to get out the vehicle, and they would pat his pockets. But he was the only one taken out, and after that, they would allow them to go through. They would then ask him, did there come a time when you saw them cars park and the people exit? And he would respond and say yes, he saw about 10 to 12 people get out the Astro van. But he would say that he didn't see how many got out the other 2 vehicles. They would then ask him if he'd seen the Astro van with 10 to 12 people being searched at any point, and he would say no, he only seen the driver get out and being pat down. He would then explain how the pat downs, including his, were very, very quick, and they really only checked pockets. They would then ask him if he had to show any passes or any type of identification, and he would say no, they just saw it was Drakeo and they let us go. They would then ask him what the 10 to 12 people were wearing, and he would say a lot of red shirts, red jackets, red ski masks, red gloves, red shoes, just everything. And he would tell them they weren't only just wearing red, they were throwing up gang signs with their hands. And he would notice that they were throwing up the B. And he would explain that they were all taking pictures and that there was a cameraman that was standing behind the cars, just taking pictures. And he would say he was watching his surroundings because he knew everybody knew Drakeo's vehicle. They would then ask him, when he observed the individuals in the van, was it his understanding that that was YG's crew? And he would respond and say yes. They would ask him, entourage or group? And he would say yes, I saw YG, he was in front of everybody taking a picture. As if the group was standing behind him and he was singled out in the front. They then asked him what was YG wearing, and he would tell them a black ski mask, black shiny jacket, black pants with a red stripe going down the side, and black shiny shoes. They would then ask, so the other guys were wearing red, correct? And he would say yes. And as you can see right here, which would be the video of the situation, you can see the clothes that he's describing. But we're going to dive into that in a little bit. He would then tell them that eventually they parked their vehicles and everybody would gather around. And as they were walking to the gate, Drakeo turned around to go put something in his vehicle. He would tell him that he forgot what it was, but he believes that it was a bag. And he would say that as they were walking to the vehicle, he would notice that the 400 camp was walking towards them. But he would say that Chief and Heavily also went back to his own vehicle to put something inside of it. But he would say that him and Drakeo and Chief and Heavily went different ways. He went with Drakeo, and then Chief and Heavily went a separate way. But as the group regathered, Chief and Heavily would tell him that there was an attempted robbery on his chain. And he would say that after that, Drakeo said, what the F? Hell no, and immediately ran back towards the pink lot. Drakeo's security said that he tried to grab him by his shirt collar, but wasn't able to get him. They would then ask him if he followed Drakeo to the pink lot. And he would say, yes, I immediately tried to grab him. They would then ask him, then what happened? Did an altercation ensue? He would then tell him, yeah, but he still wanted to do his job by protecting Drakeo, and that he didn't want to grab him and fight with him, knowing that all the people were coming towards them. He would then say that the brawl broke out, and he would hit the first person coming towards them. And he would tell him that he also brought a knife in that night, but it was inside of Drakeo's Rolls Royce. They would then ask him how many people were they fighting, and he would say 20 to 25 people minimum. And they would ask him if he recognized anybody in that group of 25. And he would respond and say, I only recognize one, YG. And they would ask him, so he was directly involved in the fight? And he would say yes, front and center. He would then say how Drakeo was standing by his side when he was fighting YG and YG's bodyguard. And he would say that YG produced a knife from his left hand. He would then say that when he seen that, he backed up and Drakeo was standing by his side the whole time. He would then say that more people began swarming and they would attempt to fight off while backing up. They would then ask him, so you witnessed YG, who you recognized produced a knife from his sleeve, correct? And he would respond and say yes. And he would say that he just saw the blade, he didn't see the handle, and that it was a silver blade, almost like a shank made in prison. He told him it was about 3 to 4 inches long, and he was slashing it at him. They would then ask him, did he witness any other knives in the melee? And he would say, yeah, there was a guy on the left of YG that had a knife also. And they would ask him to describe the knife, and he would say the same thing. And he would say you can tell they had a knife because nobody swings a punch like how they were doing in the video.
The part that's hard for me to understand is a lot of us come from less than desirable circumstances and communities. And when you make it out and you start making money, you guys still want to be affiliated, still want to be part of that. Why not just be OGs now? You made it out, man, give back, right? These are conversations that was already being had. Like, why even be mixed up in something like this? Why still be affiliated, right? So you got his security was there, Drakeo's security was there, and they're saying that, well, his security was there. The guy saying he saw YG's eyes through the mask. He saw him, right? He saw him. That's what he's saying. This is all alleged because this hasn't been proven, right? This hasn't been proven that YG did anything wrong, right? But they got the security guard eyeing you, right? They got your security guard there on the scene who's supposed to be securing your body, right? Then they got the guy saying, listen, man, there was a fight first. When everything died down, then you guys came and bum rushed us. Well, I knocked one guy out. I'm trying to protect Drakeo, where there's another guy coming, a guy go around me, and then they start, poking me. Right? So it gets real crazy. But they said the guys was, start signaling to let you know what gang they was from.
They would then ask him, so you're familiar with his body type, height, size, and demeanor? And he would answer yes to all of them. They would then ask him, so you described 3 men, they all had knives. One was YG, and 2 other people that were with him. What happens next in the melee? He would then say that they were yelling out, oh, this is Draco, this is Mr. Get Dough, this is Mr. Mosley. He would then say that they kept taunting him and saying, what do you want to do? And he would say he also heard people yelling out Sue Whoop and Blood. And they would ask him what Sue Whoop or Whoop meant. And he would say that it was a call that the Bloods did to gather up. They would then ask Coop, so they were yelling out, what's up, Bloods to Draco, right? And he would respond and say, yeah, they were also beating on their chest. He would then tell him that there's another gang called BPS, or the Gorilla Stones, and they do that a lot. They'll beat on their chest and yell out Sue Whoop. And he would tell him that the Baby Stone Gorillas is another group that Draco's beefing with. They would then ask, who are the Gorilla Stones? Is that a blood gang? And he would answer, yeah, from that area as well. They would then ask him, near Exposition Park? And he would respond and say correct. They would then ask him, who was Draco beefing with that was related to the gang or group? And he would say, I don't know their names, but it's the artists of the group. They call themselves the Baby Stone Gorillas.
What's your thoughts on that, man? Like, Draco and everything.
It is what it is. J-Side did what J-Side did, and they did what they did. So.
They would then ask him if there was a rapper representing that gang in any way. And Draco was beefing with them, and he would answer yes. And they would ask him, are they affiliated with YG in a gang sense? And he would respond and say yes. They would then ask him to explain what he witnessed when Draco was stabbed. And he would tell him that he did not witness the Draco stabbing. And he would say he didn't see him actually get stabbed. But once police came in and broke everything up, he was able to turn back to that direction and notice that Draco was holding his neck. He said he then ran up to Draco yelling his name, but Draco didn't respond. He would then say that he noticed that blood was coming out of Draco's neck, and he would take off his own scarf and try to wrap Draco up with it, and that he stood by Draco's side until the ambulance took him away. They would then ask him to walk them through the process when he got to the hospital. And he said when he first arrived, the first encounter that he had was all of Draco's friends.
So I'll just say this. We live in a time of accountability and cameras everywhere, and somebody's going to go to jail for this because people go to tell. And we already know how the LA gang unit works. They're going to listen. They're already snatching people up, right? And listen, tell them, listen, you got back time, you got this case. Man, they're going to do whatever they can do to solve this case and put somebody in prison, man. Because people are getting sued. It happened on people's property, right? So you guys came to somebody's property, committed this act, and now they're being sued where it's going to cost them money. So now the police job is to protect property. They're going to come after y'all, man. Somebody going to jail, man. Somebody going to jail. Somebody's going to tell, right? There's somebody in jail trying to get out. Gang politics that know certain things, man, right? There's nothing's kept in the dark, man. Nothing's kept secret. It is what it is, man. Somebody going to jail, and that's just what it is. We gotta call it what it is. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time, peace.